Hello and welcome to Faith in Action. Today I'll be sharing with you something that the Lord used to minister to me not too long ago. As you can see, I have on my screen a Wikipedia definition of belaying. I will get into that, but let me give you the backstory. So I was getting ready the other day to spend time with the Lord, and I had my robe on. I kind of wear it like an extra layer, just like you put on a sweater or a coat. And so I normally don't wear a belt with it. But this particular morning, I heard put on a belt. Now, I have a belt that I knitted for my boys years ago, so I knew what belt I would use with the robe. But I thought, I don't use it any other time. And I heard it again. After the third time, I thought, you know what? Let me go grab that belt and put it on because I keep hearing put on the belt. I grabbed the belt and I tied it around my waist at first. And then I heard put it through the belt loop. So, okay, I'll put it through the belt loops. When I went to put it through the belt loop, I realized that one of the loops was broken. And I thought, okay, well, this one's broken. So what difference does it make? I'll just tie it around my waist. I heard again, put it through the belt loop. I'm like, okay, I'll just put it through the belt loop. So the one belt loop that was there, I put it through. And as soon as I put it through the loop, do you want to know what the Lord said to me? You are anchored to the one. And I knew immediately in my spirit what he was saying. I'm anchored to him. And when you talk about just the overwhelm of emotion of how good our God is, and realizing that being anchored to him, there was so much in hearing you are anchored to the one. It was about the Lord. It was about my security. It was about my trust in him. So much bigger than that one small statement. And then all of a sudden I saw a rock climber. And like, a rock climber, okay. So I decided to look it up. We had gone to camp with my son, and he had the opportunity to do some climbing on a high wire, on a high rope, and they talked about belayers. They talked about giving commands, and the Lord, that had just happened the week before. So I went to my dictionary and I looked it up. So I just wanted to share it with you all, and you all can look this up on Wikipedia for yourself or Google search it. But belaying comprises techniques used to create friction when within a climbing protection system, particularly on a climbing rope, so that a falling climber does not fall very far. A climbing partner typically applies tension at the other end of the rope whenever the climber is not moving, and removes the tension from the rope whenever the climber needs to move or needs more rope to continue climbing. The belay is of the place where the belayer is anchored, which is typically on the ground or on a ledge, where it is also called a belay station, but may also be a hanging delay, where the belayer themselves is suspended from an anchor on a rock on a multi-pitch climb. The responsibilities of a belayer. The belayer should keep the rope locked off in the belay device whenever the climber is not moving. As the climber moves on the climb, the belayer must make sure that the climber has the right amount of rope by paying out or pulling out the excess rope. If a climber falls, they free fall the distance of the rope of the slack or unprotected rope before the friction applies. By the belayer starts. Wait, before the friction applied by the belayer starts to slow the descent. Excuse me, let me read that again. Okay. They free fall the distance of the slack or unprotected rope before the friction applied by the belayer starts to slow the descent. Too much slack on the rope increases the distance of a possible fall, but too little slack on the rope may cause the climber to whip or swing into the rock at a high velocity, possibly injuring themselves. It is important for the belayer to closely monitor the climber's situation, as the belayer's role is crucial to the climber's safety. Okay, do you get where we're going here? Where God was going with it. Communication. Communication is also extremely important in belaying. Climbers should wait for a verbal confirmation from the belayer that they are ready to begin. Here's terminology. En belay, asked by the climber to confirm the belayer is ready. Belay on, said by the belayer to confirm the belayer is ready and that the climber is on belay. Climbing, said by the climber to indicate they are starting to climb. Climb on, said by the belayer to acknowledge the climber is starting their climb. Belay off, said by the climber to indicate they are safe, either on the ground or attached to an anchor and do not need to be on belay. Belay off, said by the belayer to indicate the climber is no longer on belay. So you can go through and read the other ones, but just thinking about that, you use a belayer as one individual that you are anchored to that makes sure that you don't fall on your climb. What does God do for us? He anchors us so that we don't fall on our climb. He makes sure that we're safe. He makes sure that we're secure. He makes sure that we come out well. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't times where there aren't bumps and bruises, because it can happen. But he covers our wounds and he heals us and he keeps us. He said he would keep us from dashing our foot against the stone. Our conversation, our communication with him. Okay, Lord, I want to go this direction. Okay, go ahead and go. Lord, I want to go this direction. No, don't go. So we get to trust our communication with the Father, but that's having relationship with him and trusting that he will lead and guide us. So in just spending time with the Lord and pondering on this, and the Lord just giving me that analogy. So I went to my son and I was like, you remember when we were at camp and you were on that rope? Do you remember any of the commands? And he said what they were saying. Belay, belay on, belay. Climbing, climb on. Like he literally remembered that. And God had just used that at the camp, and then to have him refer to it again in my relationship with him, like reminding me, you're anchored to the one. When we're anchored to God, we are safe. Like no matter what we experience, no matter what we go through, we are safe with God. Like he will never leave us nor forsake us. He will never leave us nor forsake us. Now, I know there may be some that are like, well, if he's so great, I experienced this or I experienced that. So why did that happen? I can't say why certain things happen, why you may have the loss of a loved one when you've been praying, or why you found that you were sick when you had been believing that you would never get sick, or why something was taken away when you were believing that it would stay. But what I can say is that in the midst of all things, God is faithful and he is good. And he will comfort, he will keep, he will restore, he will renew, he will do it. I'll give you a brief testimony because I feel like I should share that in this moment. My mother, a couple of scenarios with her, she lost two of my brothers at one time. They drowned together. Devastation. And they died before I was born, but I grew up hearing about them. She would share about them. But she also shared how God carried her through that, because she had other children that she was raising. And but she talked about the faithfulness of God and how he carried her through. Now, it wasn't to say that on the anniversary of their passing, she was like, you know what, I just need to go lay down. I need to rest. It wasn't that she didn't grieve over the years, because she did. She missed the loss of her babies. But she also knew that God was the one that carried her and kept her through those years. She was diagnosed with sepsis, meningitis, and staphylococcus pneumonia when I was in college. And God brought her through that. She had rheumatoid arthritis and lupus she was diagnosed with. And I remember being on the steps near her when she would crawl up the stairs in pain because the rheumatoid arthritis was so bad. And I remember seeing her knuckles starting to fuse, but God healed her of the lupus and he healed her of the rheumatoid arthritis. I remember when she had a stroke and the left side of her body was not functioning, and now she had to depend on caregivers to change her, to get her up, to put her in a wheelchair, to push her to her meals. She could feed herself and she could talk. But you know what she did in that place? She said, I couldn't go to all the nations, but God sent me to them, because it was a very people from all over the world worked there as caregivers. And my mother was like, I have a mission field right here in this nursing home. And she prayed with staff. Literally, staff would come to her and ask her to pray for them. And she did. Everything from my family needs help to I need to grow a beard, and I've never been able to grow a beard in my life, but I'm in a play and I need to grow a beard. And he came back and said, look, I have a beard. And she laughed with them, and she was mom to them and grandma to some. And some said to her, how can you still serve God when you're in a wheelchair? Your life has forever been changed. And she said, God is good and he is faithful. And I came to know that Jesus for myself. My mom's testimony, I've watched her, but I've seen what he's done in my body, and the things he's done for my family, and the ways he's protected me, and the ways he's kept me, and the ways he's snatched us from the plans of the enemy. So I just encourage you, no matter what you've been through, revisit that with God. Bring it to him. Lord, help me with this situation. Help me to trust you again. Help me to be anchored to you. Help me to know, Lord God, that I am safe with you and I can free fall. And you're going to keep me. You're going to keep me. But I'm going to listen to you. Now I'm listening to your commands. I'm going to say it, and you're going to confirm whether I should fall or not. And I'm going to do what you say, because you see the end from the beginning. You see what's ahead. You see what I don't see. So I just want to encourage you all, and keep encouraging myself to trust the Lord, because he is faithful. Let him be your belayer. Be anchored to him. See you next time. Have a blessed day. Bye.